In this video, I'll demonstrate how to add quality control evaluations, rules, and how to add multiple observations from a single run to the QC chart. These features are available in MyAssays Desktop R9 and beyond, and are currently configured using the XML tab of the Quality Control Wizard. First, I have opened an ELISA protocol with my results already calculated, and here we can see that a single plate has been analyzed with a control sample in wells H1 and H2. I'd like to create a control chart to display the results of Control 1 with a concentration target mean of 180 and a specified standard deviation of 18. As part of my QC requirements, the 3 most recent observations must have a mean greater than 150, so I'd like to add an evaluation to report the mean of the 3 most recent observations and a rule specifying the mean of these observations is greater than 150. To begin configuring my QC chart, I'll click Add from the ribbon under the Quality Control options. I'll select New Configuration to open the Quality Control Wizard. Here we can specify the folder containing our results files and the pattern for those files that should be included. The pattern defaults to the protocol name followed by an asterisk. This syntax will include all results files with the name ELISA 96well QC followed by any additional characters. I'll leave this setting as the default. Next, we can specify the observation. I'll add the name Control 1 in range. I'll select the concentration matrix from the data drop-down box and enter the observation Control 1. For the output, we can specify how the data should be presented as a table, Q-sum chart, Levy-Jennings chart, or control chart. I'll use the control chart option and leave the SD limit set to 2. For more information on how to configure a control chart and the difference between a control chart and a Levy-Jennings chart, please see the associated video. Now, using the XML tab, we can add the additional parameters for our configuration. To the observation element, I'll add a target attribute to specify the target mean. I'll enter a value of 180. Next, I'll add the specified SD attribute and enter a value of 18. Next, I'd like to add an evaluation to the observation. I'll add an evaluations element and add an evaluation. I'd like to report the mean of the last 3 observations, so I'll add the description last 3 observations mean. And for the expression, I'll enter mean tail OBS 3. Tail refers to the last data points entered, and by entering OBS 3, we've specified those last 3 observations. For more information on reference syntax, please see the associated help topic. And finally, I'd like to add a rule to check that the mean of the last 3 observations is greater than 150. I'll add a rules attribute and create a rule with the description last 3 OBS mean greater than 150. And note, when you're using the XML tab, it's important to use appropriate XML syntax, including that for greater than and less than signs, ampersand GT semicolon and ampersand LT semicolon should be used. And for the expression, I'll enter mean tail OBS 3 greater than 150. On the next step, I'll select to add the QC content to the report and press Finish. I'll make one more change. On the Properties Report tab, I'd like to add the QC results content to a sheet named QC. And now let's calculate our results. On our report, you can see the addition of a QC tab. And here you can see that since we only have one observation, our chart isn't created. Instead, we see the observation for our current run, our rules, and our expression. I have a few more results files that I'll just go ahead and copy and paste those into my results file to simulate the analysis of additional runs. Now when we calculate our results, you can see our control chart has been added with the target mean appearing at 180 and each SD appearing at intervals of 18. The observations are listed in this observations table, and here we can see our rule and our evaluation. And our rule, of course, shows a pass result because the mean of the last 3 observations, 193, is greater than 150. Next, let's configure a control chart for a multiple plate protocol with controls on both plates. I have another example protocol, a typical multiple plate ELISA with results already calculated. Both plates contain a control sample in wells H1 and H2. I'd like to include these controls on the same control chart. We'll begin in much the same way by clicking Add, New Configuration, and opening the Quality Control Wizard. I'll leave the folder and pattern settings as the default, and I'll again add the name Control 1 in range, select Concentration from the Data drop-down box, and add the observation Control 1. I'll select Control Chart from the Output options and leave the SD limit set to 2. On the XML tab, I'll add the target mean of 180 and the specified standard deviation of 18. Next, I'll add an entry per attribute. Here we can define which entries should be included, by container, group, or results. Container will include the observations from each container, for example, for each plate or analyte containing the observation, in our case, the control group. By group will include an observation for each sample group, for example, if you have multiple groups of the same observation. By results will include a single observation per results file. For this application, I'll use container. At this point, we could also add rules and evaluations like we did in the first example. I'll move to the next step, select to add the QC content to our report, and press Finish. I'll again add the QC content to a sheet named QC, and let's recalculate. On our report, on the QC sheet, we can see the addition of a chart containing 2 results, one from plate 1 and one from plate 2. Again, I have some additional results files that I'll add to the results folder. Let's recalculate. Now on our report, you can see that our QC chart now contains 6 observations collected across 3 different runs. If you have any questions about how to add QC evaluations, rules, or how to include multiple results per run, please email us at support@myassays.com.